the old-fashioned get back to collect deposit from everybody, which means banks are given them some liberty in managing the interest rates. Using that liberty, they should make deposit attractive in the banks, because आपको बजट के स्पीच द्वारा, रिप्लाई द्वारा, फिर चर्चा के द्वारा ये तो बार बार बोला गया कि आज का स्मॉल सेविंग्स में जो है परिवार, उसको भी लग रहा है कि नया बहुत सारे रास्ता मिल गए, चाहे वो स्टॉक मार्केट के द्वारा क्यों ना हो, वो पैसा का ज्यादा रिटर्न के लिए उनको अवेलेबल पोर्टफोलियो ज्यादा है, इसीलिए रिटेल इन्वेस्टमेंट इन मार्केट्स हैव गॉन अप। इतने सारे उनके सामने जब है, बैंक्स भी नए तरीके से इनोवेटिव, जो गवर्नर के लैंग्वेज उपयोग करना है, इनोवेटिव पोर्टफोलियो ले आओ और अट्रैक्टिव करो, डिपॉजिट मोबिलाइज करो।
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Sapna Das from CNBC TV 18.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir. Two questions, ma'am. Thank you, sir. So the deposit question, of course, has been asked. There has been a lot of discussion and debate on the gold bond scheme. So there are queries as to whether the government and RBI will come out with future tranches or not. It's a expensive borrowing instrument for the government. What is the thinking as of now with the central government and the Reserve Bank of India? And second, ma'am, yesterday there was when you brought out the banking amendment bills, basically somebody had written not a very factual story, but it circulated very widely, so we would just like some clarification if possible, that there is a thinking going on to raise foreign ownership in banks, particularly PSBs, to 41%. So both can the centre and the RBI say something. Thank you very much.
I'm glad you said that it is a story which was going around and it was viral and there was no, what did you say, content in it or base in it or fact in it, something you said. That's the story and that's the answer. There's nothing before me on any of that. And these wild speculations, particularly related to banks or India's finances, are completely discourage-worthy. I have a strong request to the media that any such story, unless you verify it with the competent authority, let us say for the Finance Ministry related matters with the Finance Ministry or RBI related matters with RBI, if you do not verify it, I strongly request that the media should not further it by printing it or having discussions on it without corroborative, inputs from the concerned. I'm not stopping you from doing what you want. Absolutely free. But I'm also equally thankful to Sapna to say it was floating around freely, but it had nothing in it, meaning no riveting fact or basis. And if it is with no riveting fact or basis, please do cross-check like you're doing now before it is furthered. Because finance today, financial sector today is inundated with a lot of freewheeling advice in the social media. I'm not here to curb anybody, but this is a very sensitive area. We don't want freewheeling advices being taken seriously by people without knowing whether they were authorized or not. We need to be careful. We want people to be well informed. We want more and more people advising them, all right. But let it be responsibly done.
Thank you, ma'am.
There's nothing for me to say at this stage. Although you did recognize that it is an expensive business. That's your observation.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Shishir Sinha, Hindu Business Line.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir. Ma'am, my question to you that since we are seeing, and Governor, sir, you can also respond to that, we are seeing interest rate rising not just on the deposit but also on the credit. So are we moving towards a higher interest regime? Because we haven't seen changes in the policy rate for 9 times, but rate interests are rising on both credit and deposits. So what do you have to say?
No, that is for you to assess whether we are, it is a question of perception. So far as the Reserve Bank is concerned, the interest rates, both on the deposit side as well as in the credit side, they are deregulated. So banks fix their deposit rates, they fix their interest rates. The situation could vary from bank to bank. At times you would have seen certain banks launch a special drive to raise deposits. So they tend to give a higher rate of interest for deposit mobilization. We have seen situations where if the CASA deposits in a particular bank is low and they want to raise the CASA deposit percentage in their overall deposit base, so temporarily for a few months they increase the interest rates they pay on the savings bank accounts, deposit accounts, etc. So this is completely deregulated, and it's for the banks to decide, taking into account the overall financial sector and macroeconomic conditions and the situation with regard to their balance sheet. Now, with regard to whether we are seeing some trend towards that is for you to assess. I would not like to say, but I think overall, if you see, there has been considerable amount of stability in our interest rate regime, whether with regard to the central bank. I'm not saying with regard to the central bank, but overall in the financial system, I think our interest rates have not been very volatile. They have been fairly stable.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Aftab from Reuters.
In the economic survey, chief economic advisor suggested removing food inflation from inflation targeting. Do you support that idea, especially given that there will be a review?
I don't know about the review, and economic surveys at liberty to write on things. Government maintains an arm's distance.
Thank you, ma'am. We can have Mr. Shailesh Shah.
पार्लियामेंट में प्रोटेस्ट हुआ था इंश्योरेंस पे जीएसटी रेट्स को लेकर, तो आपने बोला था कि ये जो है सही प्लेटफॉर्म नहीं है, इसको जीएसटी काउंसिल में उठाना चाहिए। तो क्या अभी जो जीएसटी काउंसिल की मीटिंग होगी उसमें इस पे कोई विचार किया जा सकता है?
मैं उधर भी ये जवाब दे चुकी हूँ कि 3 बार इससे पहले जीएसटी काउंसिल में मेडिकल इंश्योरेंस के ऊपर जो जीएसटी लगाया जाता है उसके ऊपर चर्चा हुआ है, और हर बार केंद्र सरकार के द्वारा ही नहीं, राज्य सरकार के द्वारा भी विषय उठाते जाते हैं। सो यू सी वेयर इट इज कमिंग फ्रॉम। किसी को रोक नहीं है अगर एक इश्यू एजेंडा में आना है तो।
Thank you, ma'am. With your permission, last 2 questions. So we have Mr. Tarun Sharma from Z.
मैम तरुण फ्रॉम जी न्यूज़। मैम बजट के अंदर मैम 2 बड़े अनाउंसमेंट बैंकिंग सेक्टर के लिए हुए थे, एक एमएसएमई को लेकर, दूसरा डीआरटी को लेकर। तो मैम सर आपसे पूछना चाहेंगे कि जो क्रेडिट असेसमेंट सिस्टम है एमएसएमई ये जो नया अनाउंस आपने किया वो कब तक हम इंप्लीमेंट होता हुआ देखेंगे? और दूसरा मैम जो डीआरटी के लिए जो अनाउंसमेंट हुए थे आप कब से मैम हम देखेंगे कि वो पोस्ट जो हैं डीआरटीज के जो ब्रांचेज हैं वो बढ़ जाएं, और जो 16 लाख करोड़ के जो केसेस हैं उसमें कितनी रिकवरी आप मैम देखते हैं कि हो सकती है?
See, only yesterday it has got passed. Technically, yesterday, day before. So, we'd like to do it at the earliest, because this year is only about 8 months, strictly, not even full 8 months. So it will be done sooner rather than later.
Thank you, ma'am. Lastly, we'll have Mr. Dipankar Kumar from PTI.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir. Sir, this is a question with regard to sovereign green bond. First auction which was done in May was scrapped, and last in July was also got tepid response. So since RBI is the manager to government borrowing program, what is your suggestion for improving attractiveness of sovereign green bond? And ma'am, anything is being done to improve attractiveness of sovereign green bond?
Anything that is being done, sovereign green bond, if I have anything, I will always talk to you all first. At the moment, I have nothing before me.
The sovereign green bonds, just I would like to add to what the finance minister said, that it was started last year, and 20,000 crores I think was what was included in last year's borrowing program. This year also it is done. So it's a new, it's a new concept which we are, new sort of kind of bond, borrowing which has been launched. And Government of India has already, there are certain sectors and subsectors against, in which these proceeds of these bonds can be utilized. So one major announcement made in this year's budget about developing a climate taxonomy, I think that will have significant long-term impact on mobilization of funds for the green sector, not only through the green bonds but also overall financing of the, the climate and the green sector. So that also, that is just, I wanted to bring that into perspective to say that that's a kind of a measure which will have a long-term impact. Otherwise, it's a new product which has been launched. We are constantly, as debt manager of the government, we are watchful of what exactly is happening in the market. If there is something needs to be done, we will interact with the government and see and deal with it.
Some of them who didn't come in time came later, in case you want to check up. Yeah.
So, I request Ms. Deepshika Sitharaman.
My question again on the deposits. Is there a case for some policy intervention, do you see? And one to the governor, government has been doing its bit on the fiscal deficit, on consolidation front. In terms of rate cut, when do we see a response from the RBI?
Should I take this question? You see, there was on a slightly lighter vein, there was a book written several decades ago that everybody loves drought. So I think all the time you talk of rate cut, but you have to also remember that there are two sides to this whole issue. There are depositors, there are borrowers. I think somehow in the public space the narrative is always built up keeping in mind the interest of the borrowers. But there are a silent mass of depositors, middle class people, pensioners, fixed income people. That also is an issue. I'm just flagging it. But so far as the interest rate reduction, etc., whatever I had to say with regard to monetary policy, we have elaborately said it 2 days ago. So I don't want to add anything further with regard to the future course of monetary policy and with regard to the stance, with regard to the rates, because whatever we had to say, we have said. With regard to the deposits, as I mentioned, I think just before you came, that I don't know whether you were in by that time, interest rates by the banks, both in the lending side as well as deposit sides, both are completely deregulated. And it is now for the banks. You see, RBI, from RBI's point of view, we are highlighting this issue. It's a kind of a proactive caution to the banks, because what happens is there will always be some kind of a mismatch between deposit growth and credit growth. There will be some mismatch.